Let's talk about some YA books that I read during lockdown. For someone who is trying to get away from YA, I sure did read a lot of it last year. Though I think that is kind of how I discovered that I'm just not into the genre anymore, is because I read so much of it in a short span of time, and all of them pretty much averaged out to about 3.5 stars. Every single one I'd pick up and I'd finish it and I'd be like, yeah, that was fine. But I had no strong feelings about it. So will that lead to a good video? Probably not, but here we are anyway, because there are some that I would at least recommend. The first YA book that I'm going to talk about is The Last of August by Brittany Cavallaro, which is somewhere. I really should get my books together before I start filming, but it is something I forget every time, so I'm just going to keep popping pictures in. So The Last of August is a sequel to something, A Case of Charlotte, A Study of Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro, which is essentially just a Sherlock and Watson's sort of retelling, but it's about their descendants, which are now going to the same school and they become friends and then they have to solve mysteries together, etc. I didn't particularly like the first book. I think I gave it 3 to 5 stars, and for the most part it was just the writing style. Something about it I could not... There was something about the writing style that my brain just couldn't comprehend. Like, it wasn't flowing properly. I just found the sentences very stilted. In this book, I didn't have nearly the same problem, but I listened to most of it on audiobook, and I think that was the right way to go with this series for me. I also found in the first book that I didn't necessarily like Jamie and Charlotte's relationship dynamic, because, like, I was thinking it was going to be super slow burn, and it just seemed like they started flirting really quickly. This book follows Jamie and Charlotte while they're away on vacation, where Jamie goes to visit Charlotte in, I don't know, England or something, I can't remember. And they eventually end up having to solve some mystery. I read this back in the summer and I don't remember the details of the mystery, but what I remember enjoying what I do remember enjoying was their dynamic in this book, and I know that that's what pissed a lot of people off. I know a lot of people hated this second book, but I actually liked it more than the first book. Part of that obviously could be because I listened to it on audiobook, but personally I just really liked their dynamic more. I liked that what Charlotte was going through, the trauma that she had gone through in the first book, well, prior to the first book, it was still affecting her, and in a very realistic way, and it of course was affecting the relationship. It just felt like a very authentic dynamic, rather than just like smushing them together for the effect of a young audience sort of romance. I will say that this book didn't stick with me like other books have, and I'm not particularly enthused about the series, but I do think that I will probably finish the series because I know that there's only 4 books in it, and that seems very doable to me. And I enjoy these characters enough for 4 books. I gave this 3.5 stars. The next young adult book to talk about is These Vengeful Hearts. I did not write author names down. This is by Laurin. I also listened to this on audiobook. I got the audiobook as an ARC through NetGalley back in the summer. This is basically a secret society within a high school. The main character wants to get revenge on the secret society because they did something to her sister which caused an accident, and so she joins the secret society and decides to take them down from the inside, I guess. Essentially how this secret society works is people request favors, and they go around granting those favors by leaning on the people who once asked for favors in the past. So if you ask for something, you owe them in the future, and that's how their system works, so that they are able to do this. This is one of those books that I have just like very little thoughts on. It was fine. It didn't go as dark as I wanted it to, because I feel like with this type of book, with any type of book that has secret society premise, I want it to go very, very dark. I essentially want it to be a horror book, let's face it. And that's not what this is. It's very much in the YA category. You know, I think The Pretty Little Liars genre of people would really enjoy this. If I'd read it in high school, I would have enjoyed it like I did enjoy Pretty Little Liars. But right now, I'm just a little too old for it. I enjoyed the love interest at first because of course there's always a love interest, and at first I found him interesting, but that quickly petered away because they just like immediately liked each other, and I don't know, he just lost all interest for me. It was very obvious who was behind what and what was gonna happen. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It's definitely a fun, easy read, but I don't think it's all that memorable. The next thing I read was 5 Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. This is about a group of kids who get stuck at the airport together after they are snowed in and their plane is grounded. So they decide to road trip across the state so that they can get home to their families in time for Christmas. But things just keep going wrong. And this is a thriller after all, so we know that something shady is happening. I actually really liked this book. I will say it is entirely predictable, but I found it thrilling nonetheless. I've heard a lot of people say that they found it really like unbelievable and annoying because like some of these characters make dumb decisions, and you know that's always frustrating when you're watching horror or thrillers or whatever. But like I actually completely understand her situation here because like I've had this situation as someone who lived like 8+ hours away from my hometown when I went to college. I used to have to take the Greyhound back every so often, long weekend, whatever, and it was an absolute pain in the ass, and I can't count the amount of times I got stuck at a bus station. And like, I 100% would get in the car with anyone who was willing to take me just so I could get out of that fucking bus station. So I completely understood her willingness to get in a car with a bunch of strangers to get back home. Like, that made total sense to me. I don't even need to suspend my disbelief. I would 100% have done that. Honestly, what I thought was more unbelievable was the fact that she was so suspicious of literally everyone. And like, yes, stuff keeps going wrong, but she seems almost a little too jumpy because she shouldn't really know that any of these things are that suspect. We as the readers know that something is going to happen because there are letters that she is being sent, but she hasn't read them, but we have. And they're creepy, and they're clearly from a stalker or someone that is probably doing these misdeeds or whatever. So we know that everything is menacing, but she shouldn't. So that was weird to me. And I did think she got a little bit irritating throughout, but I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. It was something that I just wanted to keep reading, and it got my heart pounding, and I was just like really into it for a YA thriller. There are definitely some over-the-top bits. Like I said, one thing after another keeps going wrong, and so you do start to like roll your eyes near the like the 3/4 mark, and it is super obvious like who is doing what. They use one of the tropes that I hate so goddamn much. It is my least favorite thriller trope ever. But overall, I still enjoyed it. I don't know what to say. To me, this is no Exit by Taylor Adams, but like not as good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And I would recommend it. Another thing I read was Panic by Laurin Oliver. This was something that was on my DNF list from like 2019, I think. And I finally decided to pick up the audiobook, start again, and finish it. This is about a group of kids in a city where they play this game called Panic. Essentially, you just get into worse and worse situations, and whoever panics is out. Some of these situations include like tightrope walking or something between 2 water towers. Another one involves like going inside a burning building. Another one involves walking across a freeway blindfolded. Something like that. They're all ridiculous small town high school things. Like I could totally picture this type of crap happening in my town. Maybe not quite this much, and everyone would definitely be drunk, but like similar. So I do feel like Laurin Oliver got the small town aspects correct. But everything else I just wasn't that into. I didn't particularly care about the characters enough. I wish that there was more time invested in the characters. I will say none of the character work went the way I was thinking it would go. I thought that the arcs were going to go in a very specific way. They didn't. but they didn't necessarily go in an interesting way either. I gave this 3 to 5 stars. Another thing I read in the summer was Tomorrow When the War Began by John Marsden. There's actually a movie adaptation of this, and I saw it probably 10 plus years ago, and I really liked it. I own it on DVD, that's how much I liked it. But I always wanted to go back and read the books, but I also knew they were middle grade, and that kind of kept me away from it for a while because middle grade is really not my forte. I just realized this should be in the middle grade video, not this. But we're here, so we're doing it. And honestly, I don't believe this is middle grade. The way it's written, yes, it's written very much in simple sentences, but it includes YA content, in my opinion, because they do talk a lot about sex. I'm pretty sure there were even jokes about orgies and stuff, which is not middle grade content, in my opinion. Unless I'm just remembering middle grade differently. This is about a group of kids who go away on a camping expedition, and when they come back, everybody in their town is just missing. It turns out they've all been rounded up and secluded on this army base, and they don't know what's happening or what to do next. This first book is all about them kind of setting up their own camp back in the wilderness and just trying to survive until they figure out what to do, because they're pretty sure their country has been invaded. I actually really ended up liking this. I didn't think I would, but it was just enjoyable, easy, and I want to read more of the series. There's nothing like outstanding I can say about this, other than it was just a good adventure story. I'm looking forward to seeing more of them trying to survive, and I'm looking forward to seeing how like the relationships and stuff work out. I feel like it had a good mix of everything. It wasn't too focused on the like coupley crap, it wasn't too focused on action sequences, but it had a little bit of everything sprinkled in. I gave this 4 to 5 stars. I also read the next 2 books in the Wayward Children series. The third, which is Beneath the Sugar Sky, and the fourth, which is Something Else. Dream. And the fourth one, which is In an Absent Dream, which I have around here somewhere. I don't know. The Wayward Children series is portal fantasies where different children find different doors and get sucked into different landscapes. And it's said that every door and every world finds the child that is perfect for it. The third book is about the world of confection, which is all based around like Candyland, essentially. And this book is all about Rini, who is the daughter of a character in the first book. This is my least favorite in the Wayward Children series so far. I didn't hate it, but I found myself dragging a little bit more than the other books. I think we spent a little bit too much time meandering and walking around and not enough time on the action, not enough time on the characters. I just didn't love it. I still gave it 3.5 stars, but it's not the one that I'm going to remember from the series. The fourth book was about Lundy, who ends up in the Goblin Market. And this might be my favorite book in the series so far, which I love that my favorite book came right after my least favorite book. It just gives me so much faith in the series that it can continue to surprise you. This one was so full of heartbreak and hard decisions, and the world was so interesting. There's a lot about how much things cost and the debt that you pay for certain things. It was so great. The second one and the fourth one are now my favorites in the series, and I can't wait to get to the fifth one, and I have an arc of the sixth one, so I'm very, very excited to continue on in the series. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I also read The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. This was in my best books of the year list, I believe. So clearly, I loved it. I didn't think I was gonna like it because the second book kind of let me down. Did I mention this is the third book in the Truly Devious series? It's the third book in the Truly Devious series. The second book kind of let me down, but this one totally made up for it. Truly Devious is about a mystery that takes place at a boarding school. This kid shows up who wants to solve it, yada yada yada. You've heard me say this before. This is the third book, and it was great. This book mostly focuses on the mystery in the present that takes place at the boarding school, and I will say that I found the killer kind of predictable, but I enjoyed it anyway because it's the characters and the landscape that I enjoyed the most in this series. This book truly does feel a little old school, a little Nancy Drew, and almost a little mystical, and I just love it so much. I also ended up really enjoying the romance between her and David, I believe, who I didn't enjoy in the other books, but in this one, he won me over. And I enjoyed that in this book they were snowed in because, I don't know, there's something about a story about a group of people who are snowed into one place that I really, really like. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and I'll definitely be picking up the standalone mystery that is being published later. I also finished some more books in the Cassandra Clare series. I read City of Ashes, City of Glass, and City of Fallen Angels. And I'm not going to really talk about each one individually other than to say that the third one so far is by far my favorite. It had the most action. It almost felt like a completely different book because it just had so much action, so much development, and there was just so much happening at all times, and I loved it so much. And then the fourth book is by far my least favorite book. It had the exact opposite problem. It just had nothing going for it. Like, nothing was happening. All these characters were being absolute whiny bitches and focusing on their dumb relationship problems that I truly do not care about. I care about the mythology, the lore, whatever is going on in their world, as well as all the other relationships that aren't Clary and Jace. And that is not what I got in this book. I gave City of Ashes 3 stars, City of Glass 5 stars, and City of Fallen Angels 2 stars. And honestly, I'm not sure if I'm going to continue on with this series. They are very easy to listen to as audiobooks, which is how I've been ingesting them. But, like, I just don't care. And they're really big books. I know that a lot of people say that the Infernal Devices series is really good, and I keep wanting to get through this series so that I can get to that series, but I just don't know if I care enough to read any of them. So, another book I listened to on audiobook for some reason is Godsgrave by Jay Kristoff. I should just admit that Jay Kristoff is not for me. This is the 5th book I've read by him, and I haven't really liked any of them. I just think they're so mediocre. I think that there are other people doing these exact same things and better. I just find his work so gimmicky. This is the sequel to Nevernight, which, I don't know, it's like a fantasy goth assassin thing. I don't know why I listened to it. I remember absolutely none of it. I remember the ending, which, like, you kind of knew was coming, but, like, also it kind of felt out of nowhere, and I just don't care. I gave it 3 stars. I'm not finishing it. I like Mia as a character because that's all these books have going for them. I might split this video up into 2 parts because this is a lot of books and I do like to keep my videos between 10 and 20 minutes. So I think that's what I'm gonna do, but you're gonna see me looking like this still. I hope you liked this video and I hope you'll come back in soon. Bye.